Welcome back. Let's move to our next conversation. You're still watching Politics HQ right here on News Central TV. I'm Kofi Bartels. President Bola Tinubu's recent assertion that the Nigerian economy is not distressed, it has ignited a flurry of reactions. Speaking at the 16th edition of the Leadership Newspapers 2023 Conference and Awards, which was held at the Transcorp Hotel in Abuja, where our next guest joins us from, President Tinubu said, and I quote, "I should start by respectfully challenging the notion that the Nigerian economy is in distress. Distress suggests helplessness, being at the mercy of something we have no control over. But that is not the case here. It's the case the president is making." Now, I should mention that that conference had the theme, "An economy in distress, which way forward?" Anyway, well, President Bola Tinubu's session comes at a time when Nigeria is grappling with various economic challenges. The country has been facing a persistent inflation, also rising unemployment rates, currency depreciation, and a host of other issues. And despite efforts by the federal government to implement economic reforms and stimulate growth, many Nigerians continue to feel the economic pinch or the pinch of the economic hardship. Now, Tinubu's statement has drawn mixed reactions from citizens, with some expressing skepticism about the state of the economy, while others see it as a sign of optimism. Let's welcome Basil Abia. He is a co-founder of Veriv Africa. He joins us from the nation's capital, the seat of power, Abuja, where the president is. Basil, good evening to you. It's good to have you again.
Good evening, Kofi. It's a pleasure to be on Politics HQ again.
Thank you very much. Now, I do not know if those of you in Abuja are feeling the economic heat the way those in Lagos are feeling it. But do you agree with the president's claim that Nigeria's economy is not distressed?
I think the devil is in the detail. So we have to look at the numbers first and foremost. And I'll paint the numbers this way. Inflation numbers are, we're expected to have the new inflation report next week from the National Bureau of Statistics, but it's currently 29.9%. That's a record 18-year high number. The last time we recorded any number around that level or higher was when, of course, General Sani Abacha was, running over Nigeria as a dictatorship. So that should give you enough context as to the kind of dire situation the Nigerian economy is. We are not in a debt crisis, but we're near a debt crisis, which means that it's super expensive now for the federal government to access debt in the international debt market. We can access debt to the Nigerian debt market, obviously, by printing, but we all know what the consequences of continuously printing money and increasing our M2 numbers in Nigeria. M2 basically is cute English for money supply, when you have too much money chasing too few goods. Well, that's not the context of Nigeria's inflation, but you can have an idea of where the inflationary context is arising from. Obviously, it's a cost-push inflation, but there's a bit of a demand pull in that sense. And the monetary supply spike in the last 2 or 3 years, largely brought by President Muhammadu Buhari's time, is also a core consequence of the inflationary pressure that we're currently witnessing. And every single Nigerian is feeling that stress. I can tell you for a fact that the economy is in dire situation, even here in Abuja. In fact, everywhere. There's an equitable distribution of the tough times. The queues are back in Abuja, very important to add that, and food prices continue to spike up. Just to give more statistical data, food inflation is about 35.4%. There are some economists and policy analysts in some quarters across the country who are even countering the National Bureau of Statistics for that number. They believe that it is higher than 50%, seeing the month-on-month increase, the rapid month-on-month increase since January 2023, when you compare it with now, especially when you pick the aggregate food prices and start to look at the increase. Say, for instance, what the bag of rice was selling for in January 2023, and you now equate it for what the bag of rice is selling for right now in Nigeria. They think that the numbers are slightly higher are just around 40 to 50% inflation. But again, it's best for me as a policy analyst and as someone who's running a data insights company to speak with the numbers of the National Bureau of Statistics, because they have the scale. They have over 10,000 agents, spread across markets that do the collections every month. And they use, I would say, a very robust methodology to be able to carry out the calculation. But just using numbers, I think I would disagree with the president with regards to the comment that the Nigerian economy is not in distress. The numbers are there to show.
Yes, but Evans, he's looking at, yes, Evans, sorry, Basil, sorry to interject here, but it seems the president is looking at the word distress. And this is what the president, who was represented by the Minister of Information, said. He says distress suggests helplessness, that being at the mercy of something we have no control over. So when we want to look at the word in its full interpretation, is the president right that we are not in a helpless situation? We're not at the mercy of the exchange rate or inflation. It's something that we can influence, or we can influence rather.
Well, I mean, we've been trying to counter and curb the inflationary pressure for over 3 years now. This is the third year since we commenced monetary policy rate increases. We've been increasing our monetary policy rate since, if I'm not mistaken, 2021. This is 2024. And just important to highlight, the Monetary Policy Committee meeting last week increased the NPR by 400 basis points from 18.75% to 22.75%. And we're still going to observe the numbers, but I can tell you for a fact, just using regression analysis, even those NPR increase will do nothing, next to nothing to curtail it, because first and foremost, the distribution mechanism or the transmission mechanism for NPR hikes, they take about 2 years to even have a form of influence, first. Secondly, where the majority of the monies go to is not the real sector. So it can't really influence the real sector behavior with regards withdrawing that demand to be able to ensure that numbers start to spike down. And then when you look at even the makeup of Nigeria's inflation, it's actually more cost push. The cost of production is the core dynamic to why inflation is very high. We know that energy prices have been on the increase and will continue to be on the increase, especially now with the crunching lack of electricity. A lot of, again, another number, over 90% of manufacturing companies in Nigeria, they actually self-produce their electricity. So their electricity is self-generated. And if you've been self-generating for the last 2 years, you'll notice a spike in diesel prices from over 200 naira to over 1,400. In some states, actually 1,600 naira per liter. So if you look at those spike increase, and 40% of your recurring expenditure as a manufacturing company in Nigeria is basically borne by energy prices. With the energy instability, with the increase in energy prices, it tells you a lot of things. It tells you that manufacturing companies are reducing their production numbers. And not just that, the Manufacturing Association of Nigeria early this week brought out the number. He said over 800, slightly over 700, but we'll just put the number at about 800. Over 800 manufacturing companies have shut down. They have shut down their factories. And that is going to keep getting worse because, of course, access to foreign exchange is very hard. Energy prices, as I said, very volatile. And raw materials, access to raw materials, most of the raw materials are imported. We know the situation with regards to our ports, the inefficiencies on the port, and then, of course, the FX situation now. A dollar was going for about 750 naira at some point in October 2023. It's going for 1,500, or just about that number right now in 2024. So when you look at that spike in increase, again, it tells you where the inflationary pressure is coming from. So it tells you that the NPR or the interest rates spike cannot control inflation. And when you can't control inflation, again, back to the dictionary definition, you actually cannot do anything. So, and then in macroeconomics, there's what they call the do-nothing theory. So I'll probably advise the macroeconomic managers to actually start to look at the do-nothing theory as a way to just waiting for things to die down and then start to influence the numbers. But right now, we're in a situation where it's beyond control, I think.
Are there any positive signs, though, I mean, for Nigerians to latch on that may give hope and even possibly support, in a way, the president's assertion that Nigeria's coming is not in distress? Because we look at the fact that some of the signs of distress, you've given us the key indicators. Economic decline, high inflation, unemployment, currency depreciation, fiscal challenges, external vulnerabilities, and social unrest, all of which Nigeria is facing right now, are the signs that the economy is in distress. Now, you've given us the indicators, what we are seeing on the ground. But are there other, signs, that should give Nigerians hope that, these are positive signs and developments to show the economy is moving? For instance, the Naira has had a rally, I think, upwards 2 days consecutively. Let's leave today out,
But again, well, I'll go straight. I know that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu yesterday made an announcement that we had attracted over $30 billion in foreign direct investment commitment. Well, foreign direct investment commitment, distinctly different picture from actually attracting the foreign direct investments to actually come and stick in the country. So those are just mere numbers until we see that reflection. When compared to the Egyptian situation, where they've already attracted over $30 billion just from the United Arab Emirates in direct investments, and a significant chunk of the monies have already been placed in the central bank of Egypt as well. So again, using a peer comparator country like Egypt with similar economic size, the same geographic location or geopolitical location in Africa, of course, in that sense. When you put the numbers in, they have attracted that large number, and we really need a lot of foreign exchange inflow. Our target is that we should be able to get 10 billion. I think we've been waiting for that $10 billion injection that both Cardozo and, of course, the Minister of Finance as well had promised. I don't know if it has entered, but I do know that we're looking for just $10 billion to be able to stabilize the foreign exchange crisis that we're currently going through or enduring. So now, when you put that number and you compare it with the announcement from Rock that we have secured FDI commitments of worth up to 30 billion. The question is, where is it going to come from? Where are the sectors that we're expecting that to come from?
Right.
It's a very vague statement that doesn't really give us more. And then again, even investors will not see to the confidence. They wouldn't be able to build they won't be able to have confidence in the economy if they don't have the specifics of where those commitments are coming from. So we do not know the sectors that these monies are coming from, coming into.
Yeah.
We do not know the countries that these foreign FDI numbers are coming from.
But Basil, just to point out, talking about the positives, the latest move by the managers of the country's macroeconomy or the country's monetary policy, the central bank, is the sale of government securities targeting foreign investors in order to boost liquidity in the FX market, which is some news coming out today. And what are your thoughts on that?
Well, again, it's a step in the right direction. Do not get me wrong. Any avenues that we can be able to use to access FX inflow, we should be able to carry that out. I'm a member of the school of thought in Nigeria that we need to look at not only our equities market and also continue to double down on selling federal government securities, but also selling off of government assets. And we need to do that book building process as soon as possible. I'm also part of the school of thought in Nigeria, where I'm pushing and I continue to implore, either on radio, on TV, or in writing, because I write a lot, that we need to start the book building process with the NNPCL, the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, that is now obviously private sector led. I think the framework for that should be able to be provided to us by the macroeconomic managers. And that also includes an IPO. We need a public listing of the NNPCL, preferably, of course, on the NGX. And then maybe in the next 2-3 years, we target either the New York Stock Exchange or the London Stock Exchange. Kind of very similar to what the folks in Saudi Arabia, the Aramco, have done. open it up for investment, sell core assets of that particular corporation, ensure that there's a lot of transparency in the financial reporting process. We need to be able to start doing that. And we are going to be able to draw in enough FX inflow.
Okay.
For instance, I'm looking at NMPCL, and I think that we can draw in investments worth close to $20 billion US.
Yeah, but so because of time, I just want to chip this quickly to you. Talking about steps the government, should take to address economic challenges. You've given some of them. But Kingsley Moghalu, former deputy, former presidential candidate, also he was with the Central Bank of Nigeria, is saying that the CBN should continue, or the MPC should continue tightening money supply for the next 24 months. Do you think that is something that will lead to slowing down the level of inflation?
Well, it's going to be a wait-and-see approach. Kingsley Moghalu is obviously informed by he's informed by a certain regression analysis that have been carried out by some very important macroeconomic analysts. I know I've read one. I read one just last month, and it basically said that it takes 24 to 25 months for MPR increases or monetary policy rate increases to have any considerable effect on Nigeria's inflation. So if he's saying that in 24 months you expect the MPC to keep hiking MPR for inflation to be curtailed, then I mean there's a chance that happens.
Right.
I can categorically say. But there's my own perspective outside of just being fair to Kingsley Moghalu. That's not where, and that's not the context of Nigeria's inflation. Nigeria's inflation is not generally a monetary supply phenomenon. Again, use my words very well, and I'm using it carefully. It's not a significant monetary supply problem. It's actually a phenomenon of the increase in the cost of production. And so if we're going to try and see a significant disinflation consequence in the next 24 months, most of that is going to come from non-monetary policy tools. So it's going to come from the fiscal side. You need to be able to start to increase.
Basil.
We also need to be able to stabilize energy prices. So we need to increase supply in energy. For instance, we need to build a number of modalities, especially with regards to gas, oil and gas sector in that sense. So also drawing as much foreign exchange as possible. And we'll be able to see a stabilization in aggregate cost prices. But it's not a monetary supply phenomenon, Nigeria's inflation.
Nigeria's economic issues are not so easy to talk about. A lot to address, a lot to deal with, a lot to solve. But you've done a great job of giving analysis in the limited time that we have. Basil, thank you so very kindly for your time tonight. Basil Abia, co-founder of Veriv Africa, joining us from Abuja. Thank you.
Thank you, Kofi. It's a pleasure.
Very much, and many thanks to you for being nice company. That's the size of our package this week. We'll return next week right here on PHQ with analysis and discussions of the biggest stories in Nigerian politics. My name is Kofi Bartels.